It's a curious thing that people come to practice for a few different reasons. Probably the biggest reason, or for most people, we come to practice out of a sense of suffering, out of a sense there's something wrong, or out of a tragedy that happens in our lives. How do we make sense of things? I imagine, and maybe you even said it, how do we go on? I think the phrase we often use is, how do we bear the unbearable? And the reason I wasn't here last week, I was teaching in Mexico, and I've been going to the Sangha now for about 10 years. And Mexico it's hard to talk about it in generalities, but I've gotten to know people well enough to know that there's a real contradiction, because the violence in Mexico that we all hear about is real. And that this year less than last year, but last year almost everybody who came in to speak to me had some story about the violence. People know people who have been kidnapped. It's just a level that it's probably different from the fear that we carry here in the States. And things have gotten a lot safer in the cities in our country compared to what it was like in the 70s and the 80s. And there was a level of fear of violence that, I don't know, people who lived through that, maybe you remember it, maybe you still feel it now, people who didn't live through it, but it's different there. But at the exact same time, there's this amazing life that's being lived there. There is amazing art that's being made, and there is culture, and there are students studying in the university. And I spend most of the time in this small city of Jalapa, but also a little bit of time in Mexico City. And there's a vibrance, there's an aliveness, there's people out all the time. It's just a life that's happening. So you've got all these different things happening on different levels, and each one of us has to find a little pathway. How can we live this life? How do we bear what's our experience? How do we find a way to turn our experience? The image came up in the retreat that in some ways we're all alchemists. We're all taking our suffering, or taking our experience in general, and we're transmuting it into something. So this simple practice of breathing in deeply, breathing out slowly, and experiencing that which is happening right now. That very simple practice is transformative, if we allow it to be. But we have to work it. We have to bring it into our lives moment to moment. It's not just something to do a little bit when I'm in a meditation hall, or for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or even a half an hour in the morning where we live. All of those things are important. 2 weekends ago, we had a 3-day meditation retreat in this room. All of that is important as training. But if we only do it as training, we miss the opportunity of being alive and bringing our practice right to the moment of our life. Recognizing we don't know. In the midst of the argument we're having with somebody, where we're trying to convince them of what we say we know, and then the little light bulb goes off that says, how do I know that? And what was my part in this? Not what, I already know what I'm blaming the other person for, but what did I bring to this situation? Always and everywhere, keeping this not knowing mind, this curiosity and the wonder, and the ability to take our whole experience and bring that into the present moment.